My colleague does not know that we are already online, so he's going into the camera view. 1, 2, 3. Hello everyone, my name is Michael and today I will talk about our devices. Last week I was talking about our software. I covered how you can create a show, how to create effects, and overall the advantages and maybe some disadvantages of the software. This time I will be talking about the hardware, our digital controllers, dimmers, and what you can do with those devices. If you can let me know in the chat whether you can hear me properly, it would be super nice. I have a colleague here today, Michael, who will be responding to your questions in chat. So if you have any, please ask them and I will answer them as soon as possible. No question is out of limits, so please ask. This is the purpose of this training, to explain to you, potential customers or those that are already working with our devices, how to work with them and how to increase the quality of your work for your clients. So I think that without a further ado, we can start. I've got a little notes down here. From time to time, I will look there. And yeah, so I have to check Michael from time to time also. What is the camera view? You can see on the table that I've got a bunch of LED controllers. Those are for digital pixels. I will just check whose mobile phone is that. Is it mine? So maybe you will hear occasional beep from time to time. Someone is missing me. So I've got our LED controllers or pixel controllers here, LEC3, SPI matrix, our small dimmer, lady dimmer, and also our small controllers that you can use for your digital strips, which is Reactivo and SPI LED controller, and I will go through them one by one. Finally found it. Sorry. What can be the main division between the strips that you can use in your project? And I will ask Michael to focus the camera on me now. The main division would be analog or digital strips, dumb or pretty smart strips. Analog LED strips, you can control those one by one, or better say you can control the whole segment as such. You cannot control individual pixels or individual LEDs that are on analog strip. That is the case for your digital strip. Analog strip you can see all around you. It's used as a decoration. Also, we are using it as a decoration in cinemas, clubs, and basically everywhere where the client needs to get the attention for or from their customers. They are great. Usually what you use to control those is DMX. And for that purpose, I have prepared our small dimmer on the table, which you can see over here, and I will explain you how you can use this DMX console, which is pretty old school, to control those segments individually. So I can show you that with this single slider over here, maybe I can move this a little bit. If I will pull it up, I am controlling with one panel, with a single channel, this little segment over here. Our lady dimmer it's a 4-channel dimmer, so you can in total use, for example, 4 single color analog LED strips. First channel, controlling my first segment. Second channel, and you guessed correctly, third will be the next one, and fourth. Like this, you can use single color pixel or single color analog strips, and you can hook up to 4 to this little device over here. On the device itself, you've got a dip switch where you are setting up the DMX address. So if you have multiple such dimmers, daisy chained, In a single project, you have to set an address for each of those separately. So if I want to change the address to 2, I will push these 2 dips up, and now the address is 2. A bit more advanced use would be to use DMX and lady dimmer not to control individual segments of single color, but to control RGB strip, and this is your typical analog strip. So I will just change and plug the DMX into this one. And now watch what will happen with a single channel, with a single slider. I will be controlling the color, or that is the single LED that is inside the LED. So with first channel, I'm controlling red color, second would be green, and third would be blue. If I would have an analog strip that has RGB W, so that is 4 LEDs inside each, not only 3, then fourth channel would be controlling my fourth LED. But I only have RGB strip. But to illustrate what you can do with such a device, I think this is more than enough. Or you can use RGB strip and then add single color segment next to it. And that way you can mix your own color if you want. You can also use DMX with our devices to control the content on the card that you have stored and that you have exported from our software. Those of you that are interested to find out more, and I already mentioned this about our software, go after we'll finish this session to our YouTube, where there is an online training that was focused on the software itself. And there you can learn how to use the software, how to export your own effects, and how to play them from an SD card. I mentioned that you can use DMX to control you can use DMX to control the effects that are stored on an SD card, or you can use it to emulate analog strip. For that, however, you need your digital strip. I have several different digital strips here on the table, and a little bit about those. This strip over here is 12 volt. A couple of years ago we switched from 5 volt to 12 volt, and mostly we are now working with this type of strip. As you can see, it has 4 pins rather than 3. Those 4 pins would be your plus, minus, so ground, data line, and a second data line, which is called a backup. A rule of thumb, whenever you are working with digital strips, you are always leading with the data, also the ground. If you want to do this, there is a good possibility, there's a good chance that your strip won't work properly. So always remember, when you want to work with digital strip, lead along with data, also your ground. This strip has 60 pixels in a meter, so the resolution is pretty high. You can use this strip, or a nice or typical use case would be where you will place this strip inside some aluminum profile with a diffuser in front of it. So that way you will have a continuous beam of light or source of light, and you won't be able to see the dots. A good practice is to have a diffuser or is to have the diffuser at least 3 centimeters from your pixels, and that way you won't be able to see the dots. A typical use case to use this kind of strip is when the viewer is close to the strip. If you want to use digital strip for a building, such resolution would be probably too much, or it's not really necessary. You can use a strip that has, for example, 30 pixels per meter or 42 pixels per meter. Really, there are a lot of different kinds of strips in terms of how many pixels there are in a single meter. If you want high resolution, use more pixels for your strip. Okay. Voltages. This is also very important. I mentioned already that this is a 12-volt strip. We were working before with 5-volt strip, and there are also digital strips that are working with higher voltages, like 24 or even maybe even higher. Our devices in general are working within range 5 to 24 volts. So you can use these kind of strips with our controllers to play the content that you like, either from the software or from an SD card, where you have stored the effects previously. It is very important to use proper power source with your digital strip or with any kind of strip, for that matter, because you can very easily damage your strip if you will use different voltage for your pixels. So it is super important once you will start to install anything, or even beforehand, to double check what is the voltage of your strip and whether you have correct power supply for your strip. So always remember, double check that before you will turn everything on, because then it can very easily damage your strip. So I wanted to show you, before I will show you some digital strips, how you can, with the digital, emulate your, but I don't have a proper cable. Are there any questions, by the way? Not yet. Okay. So if there are no questions yet, I will show you some effects, and I will show you also the web config. And the web config is a HTML page that you can see right now. It is stored in every device, and it is a place for you to go to set up everything in terms of what is the IC of your strip, that is the controlling chip. And I can show you, this is the web config for the LEC3 controller, so for this device over here. Okay, it's on. And for example, in all settings, you can file all the necessary or important settings for your device. And you can, for example, hit in testing section of the web config some testing patterns. These testing patterns are great for you to double check very quickly when you start to work with your strip on a project, whether you have selected proper IC, that is this over here. So this strip is using an IC TM1809. There are a lot of different ICs available. Currently, we are supporting something over 60 different ICs, and we are continually adding support for more different types. So if you will find out a strip that you can't find in the list, either in the web config or on our page, then write us a message and we will be able to add support for it if you will send us some sample of it. But we are continually adding support for more different strip types. If you want to find a whole list in the outputs, you will click on this little icon over here next to output, and you can see here the list, the full list of the strips or the ICs that you can use for your projects with our devices. In addition to that, you maybe already noticed that there is this strip type, and next to it, in a second column, you can find all these different ICs. If you will select this one, all these will work, will definitely work if you will select this. That is because they are pretty similar, and it would be a waste of space if we will add into this list over here every single one of those. So that is why they are nested within within this category, within this one. Also, in addition to that, and this is an information for you if you want to, for example, use some content where you want to send a lot of frames per second to your strips. For example, if you are using some videos in your projects and that maybe you are sending from some third-party software, you can very easily do that. And it's a good practice probably to check before what is the maximum frames per second that the strip is capable of. And this is the limit of the strip itself, not of the device. This is important to mention. So if you want, for example, to achieve some higher frames per second, you can opt for this kind of strip. Watch what will happen if I will change the strip type to something that is obviously not right. Can we see that, Michael? So you can see that I have selected for my first output a different strip type, and we call this effect for free. So even though it is playing something, it's obviously not correct strip type or correct IC. So a good practice would be hit in testing, for example, red color, and scroll through the effects, scroll through the ICs until you will find out the proper IC that is working with your strip. And then you can copy this into all 4 outputs. Don't forget always, whenever you are working with within the web config, to hit save. And there is a save button in every section. Testing. It's good for one more thing. The testing patterns, you can double check what is the color order of your strip. That is, what is the order, how the individual LEDs within that single little pixel are connected, because it can be pretty random. It can go red, green, blue, but it can also be blue, green, red. So you can change for each output individually the color order. So remember, I have hit red solid. My strip is obviously not red. So I will try, for example, to switch green and red. And now, if I will hit green, it's okay, and blue is also okay. So if I have set these 2 things, I can hit stop test and save the outputs. And I can also copy the color order into my remaining 3 outputs. I did not mention this, but if you want, for whatever reason, to combine different strip types with our device, you can do that, because you can set for each output the strip type individually, and also you can set the color order individually for each strip type. So if you want, you can do this. You have this option. You can't really mix 2 different strips within single output unless you are using an SPI lamp. An SPI lamp is a great little gadget. It's a signal splitter and an output multiplier. You can use it, for example, for those kinds of projects where you don't want to connect one end strip to another. And with SPI lamp, and I will talk about SPI lamp next week in the next session of an online training in detail, how you can set it up, how you can work with it. And if you would use SPI lamp, you can use different ICs, different strip types, because the strip type is set within the SPI lamp. So that can be an advantage for maybe some projects where you want to mix different strip types. You can already also in the web config, but also here, you can see that there are 4 outputs on LEC3. So I am using only the first output, but you have 3 more outputs. There are 3 different pixel versions for this controller and also for SPI matrix. And those pixel versions means, or what it means, pixel version. With the Lite version, you can control 1024 pixels. And those 1024 pixels you can divide between the 4 outputs however you want. It is important, however, that you will keep in mind that for single output you can use up to 1024. So with the Lite version 1024, then we are increasing the number of pixels, controllable pixels, to 1048. Again, those you can divide however you want between 4 outputs, but remember, single output can control 1024. The highest version that you can purchase and that you can use for your projects is 4096. And in that case, you can divide those 4096 pixels between the 4 outputs, and each of those will control 1024 pixels. And this is the case for RGB pixels. Remember when I was talking about Lady Dimmer and that it is a 4-channel dimmer? You can also use 4-channel strips. Currently, we are supporting 4-channel strips. Hopefully in the near future, we will add support for 5-channel strips, and that you will be able to work with. And you can use 4-channel pixels, 4-channel strips with all our devices. However, then the number of controllable pixels is decreasing. So it's not 1024, but rather 768 pixels that you can control with the Lite version. And like this, it's increasing, but not, that much. So with 4096, it's 3072 or something like that, controllable pixels, RGBW pixels. One nice advantage of the digital strip and of our controller is that you can emulate your analog strip with digital. And I will show you this little trick. With a second cable that I have conveniently prepared over here. Are there any questions, by the way? Or not yet? In. If I'm going too fast or something is not that clear, please let me know. And I will try to explain if I missed maybe something or if I did not explain it properly. I am now using my DMX console to emulate with digital strip your analog strip. How you can do that? If you will go in the web config into the DMX tab, there you will find that there are 2 modes that you can control the device with DMX with. That is a pixels or SD card mode. SD card mode you would use in any kind of standalone project. Use case would be you export your effects onto an SD card and you are using some DMX panel or any kind of DMX source to trigger the effects that are stored on an SD card. For that you are using 7 channels, and those 7 channels are controlling speed of the animation, which animation you want to trigger, the brightness of the animation, and then you can recolor the strips, recolor the effects. In pixels, and you can see, and this is maybe also a good source for quickly troubleshoot or double check what is the current state of the device. You can see that once I have connected DMX, there is a little icon changed to DMX pixel mode. If I will change this to SD card mode, it will say DMX SD card mode. And also DMX in is detected, so you know that your source is actually sending some DMX data. We are in DMX pixel mode, and you have 2 settings for DMX pixel mode. number of pixels and LEDs per pixel. And you can decide whether one pixel will be only a single LED or whether it will be 2 or 3 or up to 4096 pixels. If I will now use card. No. Maybe I have said the... No. Okay. So we will start with the second pixel, and we need top-down camera, Michael. I am now using the console, and I am controlling the red channel within that digital pixel. With my second slider, it will be green, and then it will be blue. And if I will continue, I will control my next pixel in line. And like this, you can very easily emulate your analog strip. But controlling single pixel with DMX on digital strip would be a waste. For that, you can use this multiplier for LEDs per pixel. If I will set this to not 1 but 20, I will now, with single channel, sorry, with this single channel, I will now control 20 LEDs. So my pixel now consists of 20 LEDs. 3 channels. Next 3 channels will be my next pixel. I can increase this. So let's say it won't be 20, but rather 50. Or better, we can put in 300, because that is actually the number of pixels that is in this segment. So let's increase this to 300. And now you can see that with single slider, that is with single DMX channel, I am emulating on the whole length of the strip my analog segment or analog strip. With LEC3, you can combine, you can even combine analog and digital strip. And that is a unique feature of our controller. Remember when I showed you in the outputs where you are setting up the IC of your strip that you are using, you can select in here that your second output will be outputting not SPI data for digital strip, but rather it will output DMX data. And this way you can combine with a single controller digital and analog strip. Of course, it means that to that output you have to first connect your dimmer. Or there are also analog LED strips, RGB pixels, RGB strips that are capable of receiving DMX already, so there is no need for dimmer in between. This you can change for each output, and you can also use on the front the DMX out. Can we show the top down? The DMX out on the front, so that way you can have up to 5 outputs for your analog strips, for your LED dimmers. So rather than using this for your digital strips, you can use it for a lot of analog strips, and you will have 5 controllable segments, or you can combine it. I was talking extensively about LEC3, which is the controller that is mainly focused on those that want to work with our software, that is LED Strip Studio software. You can, by the way, download that on our page in a, let's see, I need to use a second browser. You can go into the, look. Not even Chrome is working for some reason. We'll use good old VPN. And hopefully it will. Maybe our page is down. Okay. So I won't show you that, but you can go into download section on our page, and there you can download the software for free. You can play with it. However, the output won't work. That is because this controller, LEC3, serves as a hardware key for the software. So once you will connect it to your network or directly to PC, the watermark will be gone from the software, and you can use the output, or you can output the content from the software. If you don't want to work with our software for any reason, we are not judging you, then there is a second controller that we offer that is called SPI Matrix. These two are basically the same controllers except for the color of the box and its capabilities. This is aimed on those, as I mentioned, that want to work with third-party softwares, and they don't want to use our software for any reason. We are, however, giving out a 1-year license with each of these controllers so that you can also try out our software. It has the same number of outputs, same number of controller pixels, but rather than in terms of pixels, we are talking about how many universes you can control with the ArcNet universes you can control with this device. A good feature of the controller is that there is a built-in switch, and as you can see, I have connected these two through the switch. And if you have multiple devices on the network, you can go into the device list, which is another tab within the web config. And once you will click on it, a list of all available controllers that are on the network will appear, and you can find your SPI matrix there. I have a nice little strip connected to this one, and I wanted to show you because I really like it. This strip here, it's not a color strip, or, well, color strip. It is a color strip, but let's go to all settings and play the red. This is not exactly red, but this strip has not red, green, and blue LEDs, but rather it has 3 different types of white, or 3 different colors, 3 different white colors. So you can see that when I choose the testing patterns, different white LEDs are on. And this is if I will turn everything on. Let's play something that is moving. We call this 50 Shades of Grey, and this might be a nice strip for projects where you don't really want to emulate a disco bar. You want to have something smooth going as an animation going, for example, around your living room. You don't want colors, but rather you want something which is a little bit more subtle. So there are even these kinds of strips that you can use for your projects. These two controllers have 4 outputs. We also have controllers that are for smaller projects, for example, where you only need a single output. Are there any questions, by the way, Michael? Great, okay. Let's see if you can see those. These two controllers are Reactivo and SPI LED controller. They both have one output and one output only, and you can control 1024 pixels with each of these. With Reactivo, there is a built-in Wi-Fi in the controller. As you can see, this little blue icon over here, it means that it is currently connected to our network over Wi-Fi, so no cable. And a great advantage of this little device is you can use the software to control the content, so you can send the content live from the software, or you can use it in a standalone mode and trigger the effects using some buttons or external sensors that you can connect to this little connector over here. So what would be a use case for this little device? You want to place the strips somewhere along with the controller where you can't really lead the Ethernet cable. And there is an option to also connect this with an Ethernet cable. But let's say that you can't really use the Ethernet cable, you can't lead a cable to the place where the controller will be. So you will connect it to your Wi-Fi network and you will use an app to trigger the effects, or you will install some sensors and you will trigger the effects from an SD card. This can be a nice controller wherever you are working in an environment where there is not a lot of people with their mobile phones on, because Wi-Fi can be pretty unreliable when there are a lot of mobile phones. But for any home installations, and that is aimed to those that are working on some contractor jobs for some home projects, this can be a pretty little device for those projects where you don't really need 4 outputs. Single output is okay, because you will have, let's say, only 15 meters of LED strip. That does not mean that you cannot use multiple controllers in a project. You can use a synchronization, so you can have multiple controllers in your place. Those controllers you will connect into a single zone, and with your app you will control multiple controllers at once. One controller will be your master device. For example, 3 controllers will be your slave devices, and those will listen to the commands from the master device, and you can have even a single effect going over multiple controllers with this type of synchronization. So, great little device. This over here is a SPI LED controller. Let's show it from top down. As you can see from the design of it, you can place it in some electrical box. There is already a holder where you can put it onto a DIN profile, and it will hold there. It has a single output, again for 1024 pixels. And rather than using it as rather than using the software, you are using DMX to trigger the effects that are stored on an SD card. This is not a network device, so you can't connect it to your home network or to your PC, even though you can see that there are these ports that resemble Ethernet ports. They are not Ethernet ports, they are used for DMX. And DMX is the source how you can trigger the effects from these devices. So you have to prepare your effects in advance, place them onto an SD card, copy them onto an SD card, and then use any kind of DMX to trigger those effects. And I will show you how you can do that right now. I have prepared some effects on this card. You can see that immediately after I've put in the SD card, an effect started to play. And if you want to quickly test whether those effects are okay, you can use the two buttons that are on the device. However, it can be pretty inconvenient to actually use these every time we want to switch the effect. So you will use your DMX signal source. I will use again my old school console, and I will go with the DMX signal into DMX in. Why there is DMX out? Because you can daisy chain multiple such controllers. You will just set the DMX address for each of those, and you will have multiple in your project. Immediately after I'll put in the DMX signal source, there is a little LED that will indicate that there is some DMX data flowing in. And the device will switch from standalone to DMX SD card mode. You can see it on this little icon over here. It's flashing yellow rapidly. That means that it is receiving DMX. And I can now use my 3 channels to start an effect number 3. With these 2 sliders. So the second channel I am using to select which effect I want to play. With my first slider, I am controlling the brightness. And with my third channel, I am controlling the speed of the animation. And then if I want to, for whatever reason, recolor the effect, I can use the next 4 channels. If for whatever reason you want to recolor your effect that you've prepared in advance. And I can select a different effect. For example, this one. This feature is also available with our LEC3 controller and SPI matrix as well. So you can use DMX signal source to control the content that is stored on an SD card. And by using those 7 channels, you can control various aspects of those effects that are on the SD card. So that is for any standalone applications. And it's really only up to you whether you need a controller with 4 outputs or one that is only single output. I will mention that with SPI LED, you can also use the synchronization, but rather than Ethernet synchronization, you are using DMX to synchronize multiple controllers and the effect that is playing over those multiple controllers. So it's also great for those standalone applications where you need multiple such controllers. You can synchronize them across. Any questions, Michael? No. Okay. And let's see. I think that's it for the controllers. I briefly mentioned what they are capable of, how you can use them in your project, what are the advantages of a controller with multiple outputs, where you might need a controller where only a single output is available, or what would be a typical use case. And also, if you can't really lead a Ethernet cable to your controller, you can use Reactivo, great little device, where you can use a built-in Wi-Fi model and also the app or the web config to play your effects. If there are no questions, is there maybe something, Michael, that you want to add? Is there something that I did not mention? If there is not, then I think that we will wrap this up 10 minutes earlier than intended. This training will be available on our YouTube channel and also on our page. So you can watch it whenever you want, whenever you need. And next 2 trainings that will be held in the next 2 weeks. One I already mentioned. I will talk about SPI lamps, a great little gadget, signal splitter, output multiplier, which you can use for your projects and basically multiply your outputs. So I will talk how to set up different IC for the SPI lamp, how to set up how many pixels you can connect to it, and in general how to work with this little gadget. Then the next training week after that will be focused on the software again, and that is on the ArtNet section of the software. How to create the mapping with ArtNet, how to export the effects. I will show you some pretty new features within the software where you can export the effects directly over the network from the software to your devices. And but the main focus, the main idea of that training will be how to count with ArtNet how many pixels you have available, and what is the universe and how many pixels are available within one universe. That is something that might be confusing for a lot of people, and that is why rather than universes with our devices, we're talking about controllable pixels. But I will explain everything in detail in 2 weeks. So remember, SPI lamp next week, ArtNet in next 2 weeks. Thank you very much for joining, and oh yeah, if you will have any questions in the future, you can use WhatsApp, you can use Facebook, you can send us a Raven. It's really up to you. We are more than happy to help you with your projects. On our page, there is a section where you can book a free consultation. We will spend half an hour minutes with you, and we will help you to plan your project and to pick up the right device for your project. Thank you again for joining, and enjoy the rest of the day.